Welcome to the Quantum Awakening podcast, where we invite you to embark on a profound exploration of conscious evolution, human transformation, DNA upgrades, and the harmonious fusion of science and spirituality. Guiding you through this enlightening journey are your dynamic hosts, Sharon and Amanda Bowden. With their extensive knowledge and expertise, they will serve as your trusted leaders of knowledge. Sharon, with her deep spiritual insight and celestial race knowledge, will shed light on the mystical aspects of your existence. Meanwhile, Amanda will share her expertise around manifesting, mind-body-soul connections, and how science and psychology are intertwined with spirituality. Join us on a transformative journey to enhance your perspective and to bring you enlightenment.
Hello, welcome to our podcast, Quantum Awakening, Exploring Consciousness. And today your hosts are Amanda Bowden.
Hello.
And Sharon Milne-Barber. And we're going to talk about perspective, how you see the model of the world that you live in. And I'm going to turn over to Amanda to start this today.
Yeah, so I'm here with my lovely cup of hot chocolate.
Oh yeah, get your cups of tea going, ready.
Because it's like a cuppa and catch-up, right? That's literally what we do. This is what it feels like. This is the nice bit of like business side of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like perspectives. So you could, like, if you picture in your mind's eye, have like a beach ball where you've got colours all the way around, and then you have like one person one side of the ball, and then you have another person on the other side of the ball, but you both see different colours and different perspectives. And so like when you come into it, I don't know, discussion or something, you've got your perspective and they've got their perspective. And then, like, we're taught in NLP that we all have our own model of the world, which means we internalize our external environment and what we do inside. And that can be through our beliefs, values, our internal dialogue, as in, like, what our human part of us sees from the outside and internalizes inside your mind. And then you've got the higher self part of you as well, which is always looking for the best outlook. So you've got two perspectives going on in your mind anyway.
Oh, wow.
So this is why, this is why you say, this is why you go, well, part of me thinks this and part of me thinks that. And it's because you've got the human part of you that's having the experience and taking it all in through sight, sense, touch, your thoughts, and it's going through what you value and different things. And we're all different and we're unique, right? And so then you've got your higher self, which comes in and it's like, well, I can see this for you because I can see further than your human mind can. And so I want you to align with where I am to bring you in with a more higher perspective, a more highest benefit for all.
So, from my understanding, we're existing in the 3D matrix in that perspective, in that timeline.
Yeah.
And you're now talking, obviously our higher self is up 4th dimension and above.
Yeah.
So even though we're functioning in this 3D, we all connect. Everyone connects with this, by the way, the higher self. And if you don't realise you're doing it, to get that perspective, then it brings a balance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And so literally, like our senses as a human being, we've got touch, sight, smell, sound,
seeing,
yeah, all the different senses, and that helps you to decide and make decisions and communicate with your mind and different things like that, to have a different perspective.
So the sixth sense, which we call the ethereal energy, the conscious, is linking with the higher self that we've been talking about already.
Yeah, and then I forgot that also, because you say that, as in some people like resonate with auras, or like I say electromagnetic field, because everything living has one of those. And as soon as we come into contact as well, that's the first part of you that picks up on somebody else physically before anything else, and that connects to your heart. So like when you're stressed, it contracts inwards, which is why we kind of go like tunnel vision and can't see anything else when we're stressed and that, and we just focus on one thing. And then when we're in like the love kind of energy and open, and as my guides keep reminding me, everything happens for a reason and life happens for you. So you're coming from the effects side of life into like the master creator and creating your own reality, then it gives you a whole different perspective. Totally.
So going into psychics, people that call themselves psychics, they're working on that alignment where you just come into me as a client, I pick up on how you are today, and you've been smiling and bouncing through that door, but I know actually there's something wrong, and I can sense it. And sometimes I can actually sense like violence or, you know, things like that around you. It's all this what happens to you is held in your energy field.
Yeah.
And then it's tapping into your consciousness as well.
Yeah.
So the psychics can pick up a perspective from that person.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so there's that. And like, we all have our own beliefs, values and different things, and that's what kind of sets us apart. Because as you know, you can't change other people. And throughout the COVID pandemic and everything, there was like a two-way split, a polar split of, I don't know, I'm vaxxed, I'm not vaxxed, and it caused lots of arguments. Until, like for myself, it was more like learning to understand other people's perspectives, because when you do, that's when the magic happens, because then you communicate better and you're like, well, actually, this is what it means for me, because we all have a different outlook on different things.
Yeah.
And it brings it together, and that's where we're going towards the unity timeline.
Their outlook is from day one of life. How we see our life, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
I do have a story to tell.
Oh, do tell.
Well, perspective to me came to forefront 2 years ago when, through my journey on the spiritual path, what I've learnt in life about myself and having to heal from what was considered childhood trauma. I wrote diaries for about 7 years of my life to the early age of 20 about my childhood and adolescence, and it recorded everything that happened to me. So that's just one bit of it. So my perspective as a growing up young woman in a family of alcoholism and some violence, so and mental abuse as well within the family. Then moving forward in life, I won't tell the whole stories, we don't have 6 hours. I got to a point in my life after being estranged from my parents. I had my second child and I had postnatal depression, severe they called it, and I was suicidal. On the back of that, drugs plus counselling, and don't remember the counselling, completely blanked it out because I was retrieving trauma. Well, I was told I was retrieving trauma, put it that way. That's what I believed. And at the end of 6 months, this very specialised person who'd been doing the counselling turned around and said to me, you've been mentally abused through your life. So I then took that on board, not really understanding everything, and took that forward until the age of 60 years old. So I was 36.
Wow.
And my belief system's all based on that one person's. And I spent the whole time believing my mother had mentally abused me.
Wow.
And then when I got to a stage I'd gone through writing a book called Deep Core Healing with my guides. Part of that healing, in the time frame of writing this book, I don't know how I did it, I wrote up my diaries. And it was the first time I'd seen them since my 20s. I knew they were in a box, but I could never look at them.
Wow.
So they said to me, you need to look at the perspective of how you've seen your life.
Can I just stop and add, like, for those, like, what would you say, as in they, who?
Oh, my guides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We forget. I do this because it's just part of what we do.
Yeah, my guides who work with me said it's now time. So I've done healing through my life, trying to deal with this. And I have thought I got to the point where I had healed, and my mother's come to me and worked with me with my spirit now, my work, and my father. So I have healed to a point, and there is forgiveness, but I hadn't fully healed because I hadn't rested with it. So writing the diaries up, which then became a book called I'm a Ginger-Haired Girl with Freckles. Basically, I realised writing the diaries that yes, there was some mental abuse, there was things going on, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and that my mother was an unwell, mentally ill person with alcohol, and my father was a very unhappy person.
So would you say, like, whilst you was writing your diary, that it's been able...
It put everything in perspective for me.
And you've been able to see it from a different perspective, because generally what our mind can do, and this is like from an NLP perspective as well, is it can delete, distort and generalize things, memories. And so we have,
I think distortion was there.
Parts of memories.
So it made me realise that what I told that lady that day, that counsellor over those 6 months, that I'd probably hadn't told it in the way it should have been, because I felt I'd been hurt.
Yeah.
And then what really came out of it, which was a wow moment for me, was that if I had managed at the time when I'd left home and then became estranged, if we could, from an early age as a childhood, learn to analyse as we go why somebody just slammed the door on you, why somebody just shouted, why that person at school's causing you freckle face or clockwork orange and all that stuff. If you can actually deal with it at the time, we won't have that trauma in 40 years' time to deal with. And it's learning to understand people more and have a higher understanding of, and eventually when we do this, as humans grow and ascend, we will not have this trauma, we will not have this to go through what we're talking about now.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So it really brought it all in perspective for me. So I had to go through this whole loop in my life to get this into an understanding, to put it into words for people, like you do with your work.
And then that's trust in the process as well, isn't it? Because it's part of our life's path. And like, I can resonate with that, and I'm going, because I want to intervene and I can't, I gotta wait. This is part of learning for me. And so like, I've come from like a similar thing where I've literally started writing a journal, and it was the start of like me flipping myself around after coming through narcissistic abuse and stuff like that. And it was the point where I turned things around and I wanted to learn NLP, and I was writing in a journal at the time, so it was really personal. It's all my stuff, I just put it in there, didn't care what it was, whatever. And then I can't remember which one of my guides it was, and they were like, you need to turn it into a book. And I was like, first of all I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I was resisting it. I said, I'm not doing that, that's my personal stuff. And so it turns out, I think it took like 4 years and a bit of a push from Sharon as well, because it was really personal. My first book was like Reflection of Self. And at the time, I didn't really know what reflection of self meant from a higher perspective as well, because not only was I analysing, like you said, but putting it down on paper so it was out in my head.
Yeah.
I was learning, and everything that I was learning, I was putting out on the paper as well. And it was like, when I started to do my second book, and you taught me about the higher self, and you have the reflection of yourself is part of your mind, the subconscious part of your mind.
Yeah, and the soul.
Yeah, and then you've got the actual higher self, celestial being who resides somewhere in the universe.
Yeah.
So like the reflection of self took on a whole new meaning when I come towards the end of my Hero's Journey book. So it was almost like I went through, the first book was a subconscious journey of where I was just putting things out and getting it out off my chest and learning as I went along, and putting in all the different self-help tools that I learned, all the knowledge that I learned, it all went in there. And like, I didn't want to put it out first of all because it was really personal. But I also knew that it would help other people, because
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it will help their perspective on the world.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
they'll read it and they'll see themselves in some of those pages.
Yeah.
And they'll go, oh my God, I've been through something like this. And it would flip it for them.
Yeah. And that, well, weirdly enough, I'm reading a book at the minute. Can't remember, Sarah Morgan Christmas Club or something. And I've been reading that, and like the synchronicities of where the story is. And I read a bit to my daughter the other day and it was brought up about a father thing, and the father had passed away. But it was like, I never realised that where her father's not in the picture right now, it's still a grief process.
Yeah.
So we're grieving someone that's not there. And so that's brought like awareness. And then like the hero's journey, my second book, was more a conscious evolution. Literally,
Yeah.
we've gone from like the first book was like all mostly effect side of life, like why me, I'm a solo parent, why do I have to do this,
The
blah
victim.
blah blah. Yeah, victim mindset.
Yeah.
And then going to like hero's journey, and coming towards like the end of the book and realizing, well, actually we're here to learn how to be creators of our own reality and manifest. And that's
It's
exactly
funny,
what it is.
that last bit you just said, I didn't say a minute ago.
Oh, go on.
What I realised, and it really, I'm sure I wrote it in my book, because what I did when I did the diaries is I wrote how I felt as I went. So it's like a real staggering type thing, is that at one point I realised I enjoyed being the victim.
Yeah.
I enjoyed saying to people, oh, I don't see my mum because she's, and it's just really sad. And I just think, so I actually wanted to be a victim in my perspective of the world. I wanted to be hurt. What's that all about?
Well, it's quite normal. We're used to it. It's like, I've gone through that as well. But then I've been quite lucky because I've had coaching with my coach, Jeff, and it's what we call secondary gain. So he'll say like, right, stop. What are you gaining from this? What is it that you're getting? Like a negative response off people, because when you go through like mental abuse of any kind and you've grown up with it, you're used to it.
Yeah.
And so that's what you'll bring more of in, because that's what you've seen. That's an example of what you've seen. That's what you're bringing in. Law of attraction will bring more in, because that's what you're putting out and you're bringing back in. But then when you kind of flip it and start to realise, I don't actually have to stay here, I can actually make a change, but what one thing can I flip right now that will put me in that direction towards something more compelling, something I want to do?
Yeah. It was quite
yeah.
mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
While I've been sitting here, my guides have been dropping autumn leaves in front of me.
Ah, okay.
And they're saying, we're talking about the perspectives we're talking about now, but they're saying, look out your window. So looking at, actually all the leaves are off the tree, guys.
Yeah.
And they're saying how we see our world out there is, so we're seeing a bench. I can see a bench and I can see slabs and deck, because
Yeah.
I've been told that's a wooden deck.
Yeah.
I've been told those are slabs. I've been told those are benches.
Yeah.
So, and you see drawings, and you're told everything.
Yeah.
So you get your perspective, whatever people tell you. But it's like they said, there's been times on Earth when, say, an ascension aircraft, or UFO people call them,
Yeah.
has come, and humans have not seen them for the first time. Mm-hmm. So they put a perspective round it, what they know in their 3D reality. So, and it's like when light beings have shown themselves and people portray them as human angels,
Yeah.
because they put a human form to something, because that's what they understand from their 3D reality and their perspective of that, trying to deal with that moment when they don't understand. So the human mind puts
That's
a human
it.
form to something
And
like
then,
an angel.
Yeah, because then the more we learn and understand about ourselves as well, because it always starts within before we go outwards,
Yeah.
then we learn more, we're allowed to let it more expanded points of view to come in. So like, we allow the understanding to come in, because we as human beings don't like the unknown.
No.
And so when we start to learn little snippets bit by bit and bring it in small steps, we can take it in and process it better, our brains. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. It's just I hope this makes sense to everybody that's listening, what we're talking about. But it's like our perspective, a lot of it is based on what other people have told us, what we've learnt through our lives. But one of the things that's come to me in the last few months is that we need to step back a bit. We're running on such a high energy plane through our time in our lives. We're to get up, have breakfast, go and do this, go and do that. Then somebody tells you little Johnny's just done this, and somebody's told you about Mrs. Jones up the road, she's not very nice, and you're gathering all of this information and putting your perspective out. So you're just presuming Mrs. Jones isn't very nice, but actually she's probably a really nice lady, but those two people just don't get on.
Yeah.
So it's that. So sometimes if we just slow up and don't fully digest everything everybody says to us and say, well, actually, thanks for telling me about her, I'll make my own decision.
Yeah.
And actually, you actually perhaps don't have to say it like that. You can actually do it in your head. And I should make my own decision. I should go out my way to talk to Mrs. Jones on Let's Go Up the Road. And if she snubs me and she slams the door or she sticks her tongue out, then that's fine. Yeah. You were right. Yeah. But actually, I'm going to judge myself.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I always say that to people in work. I say, I don't want to get involved with stuff that you tell me. I want to find out for myself.
Yeah.
Because we're so conditioned from a young age. Because the first people in our lives are generally our parents. Or our caregivers, and their beliefs and values and everything else, their behaviours as well, is what we learn. And so when we get older and as we learn more about our authentic selves, like the real us, we, like you said about the leaves, especially through autumn, start letting go of those parts that no longer serve us a positive intention. Yeah. So we can choose, because there's always an option to choose. We're led to believe and conditioned that there's always this or that, but there's not. There's always 3 options or more. There's always another option.
Yeah.
And so when we stop, like you said, and breathe.
Meditate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we think, no, actually, maybe this option is better for me. Or maybe, like you said, Mrs. Jones is not like that. And I'm going to go and speak to her, like you said, and gain my own perspective.
So in life and work, don't let people, like if you're in a work situation, they go, I need a decision now. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? It could be to do with pay or some time or something you're doing, you're trying to sort out in your work life. You can say, no, just give us a day and I'll get back to you. And literally just pause, because it just gives you that chance to reset and look at the perspective of everything around you and why are you trying to make these decisions? I know sometimes in workplaces you can't do that, like medical.
Yeah,
you got the training will come in and you do what you have to do and you look at it afterwards. But and pausing to me is walking in nature. I go out with my dog.
Definitely.
And it pauses my day. Because you don't need a dog to walk, by the way. You can go anyway.
No, I did that the other night. but no, coming back to pausing, I've set out to manifest me and my daughter going on an airplane, as you know, Sharon, because I've been stressing about this. And then I stressed myself so much Sunday because I got so excited. I was like, right, I'm going to get this done, because once something's in my head, I've got to do it. That's just how my brain works. It really boggles my head. And then I was like, why are you stressing yourself out? Just stop. Like you said, go for a walk.
Yeah.
And leave it.
Yeah.
And then when you're in a better space, as I'm sitting on my job yesterday, I was like, leave it. Don't make any decisions when you're like this, up in the air, stress.
Yeah.
Wait till you come back down in a balanced state and then look at it again.
Because sometimes I feel we come here with a path, but it's not set in stone. And sometimes we overlook where we need to be and what we're thinking, well, we need to book that, we need to go there, we need to do that. Mm-hmm. And actually, you've been slowed down and stopped.
Yeah.
Because it's not the right time.
Yeah.
So now it's going to... But most people wouldn't do that.
No.
They'd carry bearing on, and you'd probably be stopped the last minute with illness or something, because you're not supposed to be in that place. But we can think we should be there. So it's
But it's something,
weird, isn't it?
yeah, it is, because it's something you said last week, which is like my brain just connects dots, like it'll take pieces from where it needs to. And you said to me, sometimes we don't always manifest things, not because we're not supposed to, but because it's possibly not the right timing. And so that popped up in my head, and I was like, actually, I can take this stress away, because that's what I need to do right now, because we're coming towards Christmas and I've got enough stress as it is on top. And so what I want to do is take it away.
Yeah.
And like you said, and I'd already thought this morning, is change the flights to something more ideal. I haven't. So for me, like, Christmas is because my parents, and I love them to bits, didn't have the money to get everything that we wanted as kids. And so in my head, my daughter's father is not within, you know. So I'm like, right, I want to do everything. I want to do the best I can. I want to do this and that. I want to give her what I didn't have. And I'm thinking, well, actually, this morning in my head, while my head's clear, I was like, I've just paid that for the flights, and I could have bought, actually, I can buy glasses right now, which is what I need, because that would help me now.
If you'd paused earlier, your perspective would have had time to think about all that.
Yeah.
And you would have got what you needed rather than what you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is really about, you know, we do come here with a plan, as I was saying, and we both talked about our past traumas. But at the end of the day, when I went back through my perspective of my life through writing the diaries up and stuff, that I realised that my mum's chosen path to be here was to be, she was a very bright, intelligent person, but she'd actually chosen to go down the route of alcoholism and be, you know, she'd lost children, all the things that trauma she had in her life prior to me coming into it led to how she behaved with me.
Yeah.
And my dad was the same. And some people come here to be the catalyst for your problems, or you could be the catalyst for somebody else's problems, and it's interwoven. It's way beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my guide John once, when I did a meditation, and he actually was to come in with the answer for this for me, because like when I had the postnatal depression I mentioned, I was actually in my time plan supposed to have 3 years to recover from it, and then I had my spiritual awakening, but actually it took 4 or 5 years. So in this meditation, he put this image out in front of me of my life, and all this geometric black and green I was seeing of everything just moving. So when one thing goes slightly out of place, something else comes in. And I said, well, this will affect thousands of millions of things, you know, and a ripple effect. And I just said to him, how? And he just paused, and he says, well, God's source energy.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
isn't it, when you
there's
think about
something
it?
out there so much greater than us that we just can't comprehend it.
And that's where the quantum comes in, because there's so many different possibilities, which is why you've got so many different options open to you.
Yeah.
Because what we don't see with our physical eyes is that there are so many different timelines and versions of who we are. But at any given moment, when we stop and pause and actually decide to choose something else, we can tap into another version of who we are.
Going forward.
Yeah. And then, like, so for me with, like, the parents, so with mine as well, it's really funny because your background with yours is around alcoholism and stuff. So, like, it's not actually my parents, but it's my granddad on the one side. He was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so, and at the time, they went through, like, the war, World War II and different things like that.
Yeah.
And so they'd gone through trauma themselves. And so they weren't healing, they were actually going through it, and they didn't know what we know now, that you can actually heal yourself and process it as you go along, whereas a huge amount of people don't know that, and so they'll just let it go and pop it in a box. And so what they did instead, because they didn't have the knowledge, was just reach for a bottle instead, because it numbed it and shut it off.
Yeah.
And then, like, the downside with that was, like, those beliefs and behaviours. As children, we copy what's put in front of us, literally from being born up to the age of like around, I don't know, 9, 10, because that's what we do. In fact, we as humans do it as well anyway. We choose subconsciously what we want to copy off other people, and we don't realise it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so like that goes down the line and the ancestral. So it didn't even have to be like my granddad. It could have been way further down than that, until someone stops and goes, like you and I have actually.
We've stopped the process.
That's it. Yeah. So we're like the cycle breakers.
Yeah.
And we've gone, right, that's it, that's enough. This has to go the other way. I don't want this for my kids. I want them to have a better life. And that's...
I went through a period where I realised I was drinking a lot a few years back, and I could see myself going down the road, and I stopped it. Yeah. And I broke the cycle, learning about the perspective of my family, how I was seeing everything, broke the cycle. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So literally, like, we, I guess, chose our parents before we came here as our soul path. And what I've learned is, like, contrast, as in what you don't want, opens up the path for like soul growth, expanding your way of looking at life and different things. And actually, when you look back at it as a older adult, or sometimes you're not even a really older adult, you can just be younger, it depends how your point of view is, and you look back and you think, actually, what can I learn from this? What can I actually take away from this? And how can I flip it around, because I want to have a positive impact and turn it around. And that's
we don't spend our time every day self-analysing though, do we? It becomes part of our, like, putting a seatbelt on every now and again, stopping and looking. Do you feel like that, or do you do it more than do?
I do it a lot, because that's just the way my brain works, which is why I'm actually waiting for self-development to learn how not to do this. Because of my autism side of my brain. Because
that's interesting though, isn't it?
Yeah, because like for me, my brain will analyse conversations and things that I've had with people. It's really annoying sometimes. It's good in one way, because like, it connects dots and things like that. That's the good side.
I'm the complete opposite to you.
Yeah. That's why we work well together.
I don't analyse anything. I'm just drifting along in a bubble.
That's exactly what I do. Yeah. So
well, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It's obviously we talked about personal things, but we know this is going to help people listening, and hopefully you'll gain a new perspective from listening to us.
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's many of you out there the same as us who are the ones breaking the cycle, because that is conscious evolution.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Speak soon. Bye.